beautiful souls, beautiful beings. Welcome back to Crystalline Temple. Thank you for staying in tune with my vibe, frequency, and I hope that this video brings you guys some comfort, some peace, some empowerment. Today I'm going to be talking about essentially how do you heal when family isn't safe without self-abandoning. If you want to set your phone down and just listen, feel free to do so. And yes, once again, thank you for being with me today. And all in all, I'm talking about this particularly because I feel like I used to think that, oh my gosh, like I have such a unhealthy family and it's only me, and it's really not. It's a lot more than there are healthy families and healthy family dynamics, and everybody is always like, well, family is everything, you know, and then through that same family you're abandoning yourself, you're hurt, your needs aren't being met. And so I hope this helps, for real, y'all. I hope this helps and bring you guys some clarity. There comes a point in your healing journey where you realize that you're not cold, you're not a heartless person. You're just at this point, this tipping point where you're done abandoning yourself. This video is for anyone who grew up normalizing things that weren't exactly healthy or right. This video is for anyone who hears guilt-based voices in their heads that don't feel like their own. Like, are you the narrator of your mind and your reality, or are they the voices of your relatives, the people who hurt you, the horrible things that have been said or done? Our traumas also live in our minds, and we get used to living in this toxic state that when we finally realize, oh my gosh, like this has never been my voice to begin with, we start having lots of epiphanies in our lives and breakthroughs. And once again, this video is for anyone who's trying to heal without turning their pain into their personality, okay? And that one's a hard one because I feel like I grew up just feeling like the goofy girl that just makes jokes out of her horrible home environment, and it was like every class I had something funny to say or funny story that happened at home, but really deep down on the inside the girl was struggling. But I would have interactions with people and just like family and relative dynamics and experiences would weigh so heavy on me to the point like I have nothing else to talk about outside of that. Like I had to learn, and I'm still learning, to like talk about myself, talk about what I'm doing in my life outside of the things that have happened to me in the past, because there comes a point in your life where you realize that you've made your past your present, and that is never how it was supposed to be. This video isn't about blaming family. This video is about recognizing what was never honored so you can stop carrying the burden, the weight, the load, so you can let go. Let's begin with the first point I wrote down. Is not all family trauma is obvious. I feel like when people hear family trauma, they hear physical abuse. They think of the extremes of violence, neglect, addiction, chaos. And yeah, those are very much so realities that somebody in this world is living through. This video is also for you. We are going to be also including that some of the most damaging family dynamics are the quiet and normalized dynamics. And what does this look like? So family trauma can look like not being considered in decisions, not being remembered, listened to, or acknowledged, being emotionally bypassed, being expected to give without receiving, being contacted only when someone needs something. Nothing explosive, right? But just consistent erasure. And when you grow up in a dynamic where you feel like you are consistently being minimized, over time you feel like you are being erased and you're just there to accommodate somebody else, and that is not healthy. If you grow up like this, a child doesn't know any better. We're gonna take these into adulthood. It's gonna play out in our friendships and our relationships, and we learn to abandon ourselves. And once again, like, there's so many ways this can play out, from extremes to non-extremes. It's really your journey that is unique to you. So this can resonate from any range, is really all that I'm trying to say. There is no limit to this. When you are going through consistent erasure, being minimalized, being ignored, and as if your feelings don't matter, even for those who have lived in an environment where it's like, well, you got shelter, you got clothes on your back, but emotionally you were abandoned. Like, there's so many ways it could play out. You could have had a mom and not a dad and not a mom, or you could have been like me and you lived with your grandparents. And this whole dynamic is just, oh my gosh, like, this is generational curses and trauma playing out before my eyes, and I'm just here. It seems subtle, right? These experiences that we go through, but when we are consistently being erased or going through erasure or minimalism of all that we are, people learn to say, oh, it's not that bad. It's just how they are. I shouldn't be so sensitive. Don't even get me started on that. But the body always keeps the score. Every time someone hurts you, every time you abandon yourself, every time you don't speak up for yourself, every time you go against yourself, your body takes the hits. And yes, there are times where we are vulnerable and we are, quote unquote, a victim in this certain space environment, but it is our responsibility still. The next days that you live your life are not full of heartache, that are not blinded by pain and suffering, because you can free yourself, because you're still choosing to hold on to it. We have to still take accountability, guys. So the second point I have is being unseen is still harmful. One form of family trauma that doesn't really get named or brought up a lot is not being seen. Yes, this kind of ties into my last point, but this can also look like repeating yourself and not being remembered. You're like, oh yeah, I just talked to you 2 weeks ago, and I told you that I was done with school and my grades, and then the next time I talk to you, so how did finals go? Or how did school go? I just told you that I was out of school and I've been done. It could be like simple things like that we could be like, I'm just maybe making it about myself. No, you matter. If I care about someone, then I'm gonna put in the effort, the time, and consistency to actually hear them and digest what they're saying. If I didn't care, I wouldn't remember. It's simple as that. We really don't need to continue to make up things in our minds. Some things are exactly as they are, and I feel like when you grow up not being seen, you gaslight yourself all the time, thinking that, no, it's just me. No, that's just kind of that's just how they are. It's just me taking it too personally. And no, if you're not gonna listen to me, I'm not gonna tell you anything. Let's start there. This can also look like your emotions just being glossed over. Like, I just told you I was depressed. I'm grieving. And you are just like, oh, yeah, I get it. Or you just completely change the subject of like, oh, well, what about your mom's car? Or what about these things that have nothing to do with the other family member? These are you not being seen and your needs not being met. You deserve to be seen. Conversations resetting as if nothing mattered from the get-go. Like, how many times do I have to tell you, when you do this, this makes me feel this way? And then I don't contact you. And then once I give you another chance, it's like, well, I haven't heard from you forever. What about us? So that's how you feel? You're just not gonna talk to us after all that we've been through? I just told you my boundaries, honey. I told you if you do this, if you say this, if you ignore me, if you can't help me while I'm grieving, you have no access to me. So why is it when we come back in the future and you try to target me for having an issue of non-communication that you're surprised because you never listened to my boundaries in the first place? That is being unseen. Then of course, like, people sharing their lives and their world with you, but not even asking or considering how you're doing. Like, if you haven't heard from a relative in months, and all of a sudden they're asking you for money, when you were out here in the hospital, you've been struggling, you've been doing a lot of things on your own. Give yourself a pat on the back for seeing yourself and acknowledging yourself. It's not easy. When the people around you are consistently showing you that you're not worthy of being seen, but know that you are. Just because they are not able to meet themselves doesn't mean that you can't meet yourselves. Don't take it personal. And I know it's hard because it's family, right? We're blood. Blood is thicker than water. Like, for real, without water, there's no blood. So is blood really deeper than water? Anyways, you guys catch my analogy. Just don't take it personal, because at the end of the day, all you have is you, and you have to learn to fill those spaces that nobody could fill for you. And we'll get to that later on. But moving along, over time, these particular experiences teach you to shrink your needs, to stop expecting people to follow through, to stop feeling worthy of consideration. What else are you supposed to think? This is basic psychology of human behavior. If a child is put in this environment and these are the circumstances that it's given, XYZ equals this adult. And I wish people would consider this beautiful soul they've brought into this world and this environment that they're in. Some people don't need to be parents. Some people will be like, well, God said I need to bring this child into this world and I shouldn't get an abortion. But then they end up going through all this trauma. Broken people create broken people, and broken people create a broken world. I'm not trying to trigger nobody with my abortion comment. I'm just giving an example. Okay? Moving along. All I'm trying to say is you were not asking for too much from your family, from your relatives. Especially you were a child. You weren't asking for too much. You were asking for basic relational presence. And if somebody can't give you that and can't love you in that simple way, then that says a lot about them, not about you, not that you're not worthy. So we're going to go into section 3. This is about when roles are taken but not honored within the family dynamic and the family system. Another overlooked aspect is when titles are used but not respected. Being a sister, being a niece, being a daughter comes with assumed access but not care. I'm confused. I'm so confused. This can look so many different ways. Like being expected to emotionally carry others, being asked for money, help, or availability. I'm just gonna say this here and now. Being a niece, having to support uncles, grandparents, is not a healthy dynamic, because then it's like you're the youngest, like you don't even have that much experience in your life and nobody's helping you. You still gotta hold yourself up by people asking you for money, asking you for space, time, and energy that they never gave you when you were a child. Acting like they didn't abandon you, but they want to be present for you now when you're an adult. When your mom, right after your mom passes away, flabbergasted. Being leaned on without reciprocity is not a given just because you have a title. I'm revoking titles this year. You're not my brother. You're not my aunts. You're not my uncle. You're not my grandpappy. You're not my grandmammy. You are a human, and I'm going to see you as a human first. These titles are just given to express heirs to a bloodline or relations within a bloodline, but do they really have power and honor when these titles are being neglected and not used in a healing way, in a loving way, bare minimum way? Being contacted when someone needs you versus them being absent when you needed support. And part of me is also like, you can't expect other relatives in your family to know how to love if their parents are jacked up. But I'm also not gonna sit and act like there's no self-awareness. If we have the self-awareness enough to know that you don't have good parents and you can talk all this smickety smack about them, but at the end of the day, you don't have the awareness to heal and change yourself, then there's an issue. It's not like your actions are perfect, my actions aren't perfect, but when are you going to break the cycle? When are you going to stop this loop? When are you going to stop complaining about what's in front of you and change? Because we can blame the environment, we can blame the person, I can blame the dynamics. I didn't create them. My reasonings are valid, but I still am the co-creator of my life. I'm still learning to love myself deeply every day. And through that means I can't abandon myself for others who don't give me the same access to basic love needs. If you're gonna put me on the sidelines, if I'm not a priority in your life as a relative, then there is no access to me. Why are we living our lives making others priorities who aren't even prioritizing us? This is self-abandonment. This is people-pleasing. This is self-erasure. This is programming of your toxic dynamics. We have to learn to reprogram our minds and see through the trauma, see through the hurt, see through the attachments that we have with these people and these trauma bonds. The title may exist, but the responsibility only goes one way. We are done with dysfunctional, imbalanced dynamics. If you're giving and nobody is giving to you, or you feel like this gift has hidden motives or hidden agendas, or there's manipulation behind this gift, because it could be that too. Not everything that is given to you is given with love. If you give with love and somebody else doesn't, then that's an issue. If you give with love and somebody else doesn't give with love, then that's an issue. And we always are like, well, it's better to give than it is to receive. What? This is kind of a negative concept, because now you're saying that through giving, I'm fulfilling a selfish desire because I want to be perceived a certain way through giving this gift. And wanting to have reciprocation is not a negative thing. If you lived a life where you haven't experienced reciprocity, you haven't experienced love, consideration, to the deepest that you have given it, no, this is completely understandable. So once again, let's not gaslight ourselves. Let's not think that these things are the equivalent to family closeness, because that is emotional extraction. Energy vampires be right in your home. You be related to them. Sometimes your relatives be your biggest ops, sucking your blood, sucking your life force energy, sucking the joy out of you. Misery loves company. This dynamic teaches you that your only role is to give, not to be protected. How can one ever feel safe as a child, teen, early adult in this type of dynamic? In fact, you probably don't realize you're in this type of dynamic until you're teens, when things get worse, or young adult, when you have to decide to leave. When our brain and our frontal lobes start developing, we see relatives differently. We start to really see the truth. The fourth point I have is the black sheep is usually the one who notices these unhealthy dynamics and these systems. The person who names the imbalance and doesn't want to interact with this imbalance is normally called the black sheep. Not because they're wrong, but because they decide that they don't want to play along anymore. There comes a point where you get tired of playing this game. If I'm going to play this game and I know I'm going to be hurt, if I'm going to play this game and I know I'm going to be neglecting myself, abandoning myself, thinking that they've changed or that they're going to treat me differently, I'm going to get to a point where I'm like, damn, I'm doing this to myself. You have to let yourself be the black sheep and the cycle breaker. If you really want to have peace and love in your life, you have to stop playing along with the game. Black sheep are the ones who notice the patterns, question justice and fairness within family dynamics. Black sheep are the people who feel the exhaustion early. Let me tell you, when I was living with my relatives, I got so sick, physically, in and out of the hospital. You know what happened when I got back? Oh, it's because all them supplements you've been taking are making you sick. Oh, it's because you don't know how to take care of yourself and you're eating all that organic food. Yo, I'm telling you, this is exactly how it was. And it sounds intense, it sounds crazy, it sounds bizarre and deluded, but because it was. And not only that, I was told to pay rent after I got in an accident, living with relatives who wanted me stuck in that house. I get sick, I gotta buy my own food because nobody's in the household is changing for me. Nobody's gonna go out and get me gluten-free bread, non-dairy food, real ingredients. No, I gotta get that myself. And then when I go out and get it, guess what? Why didn't you get anything for us? Y'all selfish. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot. Are you guys sick? Are you guys going through physical ailments? Oh, I forgot. It's this environment that's making me sick. Black sheeps are the ones who leave when it costs too much. If it's costing you your mental health, if it's costing you your health, your well-being, if it's costing you your time, your energy, your peace, your passions, your joys, whatever it is that you want to do in your life, it's costing you too damn much. I'm being real. If any relationship is costing you your peace, it is not worth it. Peace is treasure. Peace is your guide in this life. And if a space doesn't bring you that peace, know that it is not in alignment with you. The black sheep was not born to fix the family. And people will always be like, well, you were born into this family for a reason, so you can be the example and help your family heal. I'm like, whoa. Me, one human being, putting all of their baggage, all their weight on my shoulders. I didn't even ask to be here. Even though, some say that our souls chose to be here in this experience, and maybe that's so. I can't deny that, I can't knock that, because I don't know. But all I can say is, I didn't ask for it to be this way from my knowledge, if I had to choose. How is it my responsibility to heal all these people based off of me just changing and doing better? It doesn't work like that. No matter how much you change, the person next to you might not change. Might change for the better, might change for the worse, I guess, but I'm not gonna make myself a martyr. I'm not gonna put myself in a situation that I know I'll be better not participating in it. So that's not fair to me to hold everybody else's weight and problems and hope that they do better through me. No. Black sheeps were not born to fix the family. We were born to end this pattern. And I know it's hard because we're like, well, I love them so much and I want to still interact with them. And okay, if that's what you want to do, then make sure you're strong enough to handle being around them. Make sure that you are being treated how you want to be treated. And if your boundaries are not being met and you're still being invaded and you don't feel safe, then why are you still having an interaction? Can we just say that having love and deep care for your relative and wanting them to do good is enough? We don't have to do all this extra stuff and abandon ourselves in the process. You owe all of the love to yourself. After all you've been through most of your life, give it to yourself. Because next thing you know, you're going to be in your 50s and you're going to have all these grudges. You're not going to be happy. You're probably going to be sick. You're still going to be in the same family dynamics. Ask yourself, where do I want to be in a year from now, 5 years from now? Where do you want to be? Not where do you want your family to be, your relatives to be, your toxic family dynamics to be. Where do you want to be? How do you want to feel? What do you want to experience? What do you deserve? You guys need to get a journal if you don't have one and write these things down. Get to know yourself. The next point I have is trauma bonding isn't healing. I'm gonna let you know this now. It may feel like you guys are bonding, but it's not. There's no growth. When you come from dysfunction, it's easy to bond over pain because that's all you know. Trauma bonding feels like connection, but it keeps you anchored in shared wounds, constantly processing, constantly reliving the past. And that is not healing. That is just rumination and you choosing to hurt yourself over and over again by remembering such traumatic things and living through it when you're not in that space anymore. Healing doesn't mean you never share your story. It means not making your pain the foundation of belonging. You're allowed to want relationships rooted in safety, where you can express yourself, rooted in presence, where people could see you for all that you've been through, rooted in values, mutual care, but not survival. Trauma bonds are rooted in survival, not thriving. I'm not saying survival is a bad thing. That's reality. But if you're not in that state or in that space of survival and you leave, you grow, you disconnect, and then you continue to have these interactions as if you did when you were there, that is not healthy. The sixth point I have is important. It is essentially that the voices in your head are not yours. And this is something that changes everything. Not every thought in your mind belongs to you. Some thoughts are internalized family members. So when you feel like really guilty or shameful for letting something go or moving on, or you're not in that space anymore, and you have these thoughts trying to push you back into that, trying to pull you back into that dynamic, those aren't your thoughts. And we all have multiple voices in our heads, but are you the main narrator? You really have to ask yourself this, because when you have internalized family narrators in your consciousness, you're going to constantly be hearing thoughts of like, oh, you're dramatic, you're too sensitive, you should be understanding, you should be helping out your family and your relatives, you're selfish for choosing yourself. Those voices were learned in those environments where your needs were being minimized, your boundaries were inconvenient to them, and your reality was questioned. Healing isn't about arguing with these voices in your head. It's about removing their authority, their influence. If these thoughts are influencing you to make actions like, oh, I'm going to go back to this space, I'm going to open up my boundaries because I feel like this is the right thing to do. Those voices have authority over you. You need to have a strong narrator of your own voice, your higher self, the most loving, supported version that you have created, whether it be your higher self, your spiritual team, your family, your guides that are of love, the Most High, whatever you believe in that is higher than yourself, that you know wants the best for you. Listen to those voices. Give those voices authority, not the lower vibrational negative ones that don't care about you. You don't need to convince these voices. You need to just stop letting them drive your consciousness. You don't just let anybody drive your car. Why are you letting these voices drive your consciousness? Drive your mind, drive your body. that you're giving them way too much power or way too much authority. But that's okay, because you were taught to do that. You were programmed to not put yourself first. So obviously, your mind is going to reflect that, isn't it? The next point to have is the 7th point: going no contact or distancing yourself without feeling hatred, shame, and guilt. Because letting go doesn't always come from anger. Sometimes it comes from pain. Sometimes it comes from exhaustion, overwhelmingness. There comes to a point where you're just like, nah, we're not doing this anymore. It might take hundreds of cycles, hundreds of loops before you decide this, but you will know when it's time. Sometimes letting go comes from grief. Sometimes letting go comes from clarity and not viewing yourself as a villain, because this distance is an act of compassion for yourself. Remember, we have already been programmed through this dynamic to neglect ourselves, to reject ourselves, to abandon ourselves. So we have to redirect our energy. We have to redirect our focus to ourselves. Allow yourself to have distance away from them. If your inner child is telling you that they are not safe, if your inner child is telling you that they do not feel safe in this environment around this person, if you get a heaviness in your gut when you have to interact with certain spaces, environments, people, listen to it. It's probably your inner child. It's probably your intuition, maybe. You deserve to be protected and feel safe. Sometimes, once again, that is through distance. Multiple truths can exist at once. You can care deeply. You can love deeply and still leave. You can love without access. You can stop engaging without villainizing people. No contact is not punishment. It's protecting your nervous system. Your nervous system has been wired for years, since childhood probably, with these dynamics. You haven't even made that up in your adult years alone. I left my family environment maybe 2021. At the time, I was 21. I am now 26. That's only 5 years. And even within that 5 years, I haven't been 100% no contact. My nervous system still was responding that way, as if I still lived with them. They respond to me the same way, as if I'm that child that's obedient and is just gonna do whatever they want them to do, boss me around. But I'm not her anymore. But my nervous system needs to trust me. My body needs to trust me that I will not put myself in that situation, so we can reprogram, so we can heal, so we can live and see through clarity and truth what is best for us, what is the most loving state and healing and most peaceful state for us to be in. You need to give your nervous system the space and the time away from these negative interactions, negative spaces that are not healthy or healing for you. You cannot heal in the same environment you've got sick in. So protect your nervous system by distancing yourself. Don't feel bad about it. It's okay if you do have those emotions come up, but acknowledge to yourself that you matter and that this is what protects you. The 8th point I have is leaving doesn't mean you didn't try. Most of the time when you're having a conversation with someone who maybe has not experienced the same situations that you've experienced, they'll be like, well, that's your mom's, that's your pops, that's your brother, that's your sister. Like, I could never leave my family. Well, good for you. You shouldn't have to. Do you really think we want to leave our loved ones? Do you really think we want to leave our blood? We're not doing this because it's fun. We're not doing this because we're evil. We're not doing this because we're petty. We're doing this because we had no other choice. People assume if you leave, you didn't try hard enough. I'm sorry, if it's one-sided, there's not much you can do but leave. And most people who leave have to consistently explain themselves repeatedly, to justify. You don't have to, honestly. And honestly, most people who are leaving or have left, they already overstayed their welcome. They already stayed longer than they were supposed to anyways. So how about we give them a round of applause? Give them a hug, some compassion for choosing themselves to get out of such a toxic space full of spiritual warfare. Can we give them some credit for that? Instead of acting like they are the villains of their own ancestry. The people who decide it's time to leave and let go, they hoped things would change. They hoped things would get better. I constantly still do. But I can't live in a delusional world. I can't live a delusional life and be like, yeah, everything's good, because I'm neglecting myself. That's not self-love. That is literally mental illness. And when you grow up in a space of mentally ill people, mentally unhealthy dynamics, conversations, traumas, you think you're not inclined to be that as well? We have to leave these spaces to save ourselves. To save ourselves the peace of mind, to give ourselves some grace and the love that we deserve. And I don't want to end up like them. I don't want to end up unhappy, miserable, stuck in mental damnation. No, I'm good. I want to be healthy. I want to do better. I want to do what I want to do with my life and be who I want to be, not who people and spaces and places have influenced me to be or programmed me to be when I had no choice and when I was vulnerable. All this to say is leaving was rarely the first option from the get-go. Just saying. It's usually the last option we have. Also, staying longer in this dynamic wouldn't have healed anything anyways. We've already tried that cycle and we've already went through that loop. If we stayed, it would just cost us more and more and more. Leading to the 9th point I have being grieving people who are still alive. I'm going to say the second hardest grief for me is grieving people while they're still alive. Because while you have life, you still have time for things to change. But when you have to accept that that certain change or situation is the same, it's hard. It's not because they're gone, but because they were never available from the get-go. And that's okay. Not everybody is available for you. And you're not available for everybody either. We do have limited capacities. We don't know what others have been through to make them the way that they are. And I hope all the time, I hope for healing over every soul, every being. No matter how much of a villain they may be, no matter how toxic they may be, like they went through something to be that way. And so I give them as much grace and compassion, but also I'm not going to be available to that nonsense. And there's no funeral for this particular type of grief. It's just quiet waves of sadness, clarity, and release, where you finally set yourself free from all that you were holding on to justify something. within yourself. And you do get to a point where you realize that holding on is selfish too. It's not. It could be selfish and self-neglecting at the same time, because you want to have that particular experience with that particular person who you know is never going to be able to give it to you in the first place. You are allowed to grieve what never existed without having to reopen the door. My 10th point, and don't worry, we're going to be wrapping it up soon, is: what is your identity after leaving dysfunction? Let's think about it. Once you stop reacting to family dysfunction, a new question arrives. Who am I when I'm not explaining, when I'm not defending, and when I'm not bracing myself? Because at first, peace can feel strange. It can feel too good to be true. It can feel like, wait a minute, there's something that doesn't feel right. I feel like I'm anticipating something bad to happen. The quiet can feel empty. You get used to chaos, and at least it filled some type of space, right? Boredom can feel unsettling, but through this boredom, you're actually letting your nervous system breathe and take a break. But all of these can feel very disorienting, because that's not depression, that's decompression. Like I mentioned earlier, we can't expect our childhood to now to be healed within 4 years after experiencing that reality for like 18, 21 years. You know, and it's going to take just as much time to make it up. You know, you're going to have to put in as much effort. You're going to have to let yourself decompress how much you've held on to for so many years. Almost 2 decades of trauma. 2 decades of dysfunction. So let yourself decompress and give yourself the space to do so. You're not lost during this time. You're unhooked. You're unchained. You're unbound. And it feels different. It feels new. So get to know this new version of yourself. As you decompress, allow yourself to let go. Allow yourself to learn, what is it that you need now? Who is it that you want to be around? What is it that you need from friendships, relationships, family? What is family to you? How can you create your own family? How can you love yourself? How can you add more joy back into your life? How can you make up for this time? Because not everybody gets the chance or time to make up for a toxic family dynamic. Most people get stuck in it. So take advantage of this time you have to decompress and learn yourself. Last but not least, the 11th point that I have is: how does healing actually begin? Healing doesn't start with forgiveness. I think I tried really hard. I used to be like, I forgive and I'm gonna let him in again. Like, no, I think forgiveness is a journey. And I think the best way you can forgive sometimes is to let go of the whole person, of the whole experience. But forgiveness starts with safety. Healing starts with safety. If you've never felt safe before and you're just now feeling safe, don't expect yourself to forgive so soon. Don't expect yourself to heal so soon. You need to create safety first. Your body, your mind, your soul needs to know that you're safe to heal and grow. And healing can look different to everybody. Healing can mean choosing fewer people to spend time with, choosing people wisely, choosing people intentionally, selectively in your world who are able to help you in this journey, or be a mirror of growth and freedom and peace. Healing begins with listening to your body, because once again, the body holds the score. If you are not moving your body, if you're not eating healthy, or if you're not detoxing, giving yourself love in the ways that you need it, whether that's chiropractic, massage, moisturizing your body, doing more self-care routines, going to the doctor to get checked on something that you've been neglecting for a while. Your body needs to know that you matter, because our body is the last form of manifestation. We got emotional, spiritual, and then we get physical. If we have internalized so much trauma, so much emotions, so many traumatic experiences weighing in our minds, our body has already manifested those into some type of ailments and imbalances. And I think that's why a lot of people go to the doctor and the doctor's like, we don't know how you got this. We don't know how you're sick, or you might be too young to have some type of ailment or disease. Or they just might not even know from the get-go. But you know you're experiencing certain things going on. It's because you're holding on to something. Your body doesn't feel safe enough to release it. It doesn't feel safe enough to heal yet. It's probably in your fascia. It's probably in your fascia. The fascia tissue, I don't know if it's fascia or fascia, but either ways, the fascia tissue holds so much emotion and energies. I get to a point where if I'm stretching or moving my body through yoga, I just start crying and I release this certain tension in my body, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that was an experience, that was a memory, that was emotion from this, and it's crazy. But it is important, because without our body, we cannot do a lot of things. Healing can look like leaving earlier than you anticipated. You know what? I gave you a chance, but actually, I'm good. This space isn't serving me, I'm good. This person might trigger me, I'm good. Instead of going out, I'm gonna choose myself and journal and work on some workbooks about healing. I'm gonna go to therapy instead of going out to party. Whatever it may be. Healing looks like saying no without needing to justify or explain yourself. No, I don't feel like it. I don't want to. No. Another key point I would add to healing is that peace is boring, and you have to let peace be boring. Because we think that, and we've gotten used to chaos, overwhelming energies to be our go-to interactions from a day-to-day basis, and now we're in a space where we're bored. But let the peace be boring, because man, you've held on to so much, we've held on to so much, and just let yourself bathe in the boredom of peace. You do not heal by fixing the past. You can't fix the past. If you think you can fix the past, then you're delusional. You heal by not recreating the past, by not reliving it, by not carrying it on to your next bloodline, by not carrying on anything from that environment in that space. And that takes time, but that's what healing is. Being the creator of your reality, of who you want to be, what you want to do, what you want to express, what you want to embody. You have to give yourself the freedom to do that, or you simply cannot heal. To conclude, if you felt unseen, if you felt like your role was taken but never honored within your family dynamics, if you're the black sheep, if you're just done abandoning yourself, you're not broken, you're not cold, you're not alone. I know it's easy to feel like we're alone, but that's the illusion. You might feel alone within that dynamic, but there's so much more outside of that, so don't ever limit yourself to what family is. You weren't born to carry the family. You were born to end the pattern. You don't need to bleed, you don't need to suffer, you don't need to sacrifice yourself to belong. And I'm gonna leave with a affirmation for you guys. Write it down, write it on your mirror, make an audio voiceover of it, whatever. I choose connection without self-abandonment. I choose connection without self-abandonment. I choose connection without self-abandonment. I choose me. I am safe. I am loved. Thank you, beautiful souls, beautiful beings, for being with me during this podcast. And please leave a comment below. Please share your experiences, your journeys, your healing. This is a safe space. Just know you're not alone. And send you guys all the peace, all the healing, all the grace, all the love, all the abundance. Thank you. Take care, guys.